Are you traveling to Antalya in 2022? Need some help and guidance on what exactly to do? Well, I don't have the answers, but I'm here to share with you my experience that I had over the past week. Let's go. So why Antalya? Well, Antalya is known as the Pearl of the Mediterranean and the Turkish Riviera, home to 1 million people, making it the 5th most populated city in Turkey. And it has an amazing history, ruled by the Greeks, the Romans and the Byzantines? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. I didn't do history. Being ruled by many dynasties, this is reflected in and around Antalya. Our tour guide described it as the Beverly Hills of Turkey. So when's best to travel? I traveled over the last week. I don't know when this video is coming out, but that was end of January, beginning of February. That is a winter month, so you'll see in the following videos, the weather wasn't exactly the best, but to break it down, here are the seasons across the months. So if you are deciding to travel between December and March, the temperature stays between 15 to 18 degrees as an average. April to May, everything picks up a little bit more, 18 to 26, and then June, July, peak season, 30 plus lush. So we traveled through TUI, who offered us the flights and the hotel. I'm sure there's videos online where you can see which is better to travel through a package deal or finding flights and hotels separately. You can figure out what works for you. So TUI had the flights with EasyJet. I could do a whole video about EasyJet. But you know what? You get what you pay for. Now let's get into the hotel. So I stayed at the hotel Aska Lara. Is that how you pronounce it? I hope so. I have to commend their customer service. Everyone was very friendly, on point. We had to change our room also, so they were very accommodating of that. Really helpful. The hotel itself has, I think, 3 bars. It was really interesting because everything's kind of open 24 hours of the day. So if you need some water, you need to grab a drink, if you need some coffee, whatever, you can just go into the bars or one of the restaurants that they have at the hotel. And now to food, and boy, did I eat a lot. They have a great variety of food there, from cheeses and so many different types of cheeses. I'm talking about cheeses a lot because, you know, they were paying. And also the desserts, like, oh my god, the variety at the hotel was incredible. I will say we did watch a video before we traveled and it did show a bigger range of food, like even more than they had. But of course, through restrictions, they've kind of put their barriers for the protection of the guests and also the staff. They still had masks on, so everything was safe. My advice would be maybe to go half board. There is a lot of food to eat and I sure did. Maybe have your breakfast at the hotel or wherever you're staying and then explore the city centres because you can find a lot of traditional Turkish authentic food. So the hotel was located right next to the Lara beach. It was 12 kilometers away from Antalya city centre and the airport. There's so much public transport that you can use to navigate your way through the city. Trams going within the city, but there's also buses that come every 15 minutes. And the bus stops are pretty well located. I know Londoners, like, we complain about our public transport, but I would say it's really similar to the transport system we have here in London. It's kind of got a similar like Oyster card system, and you can top up your Oyster or buy new cards at the bus stations or at your hotel. Things to do before you travel. Well, before you travel, you will need your HES code. It's a series of letters and numbers. So the HES code is important because you do need this for your passenger locator form, but it's also assigned to your bus pass. So if you're on the bus and there's an outbreak like then you're informed and everyone is safe, you can get tested, etc. It is required for your passenger locator form. It's also needed for going into some shops, some places, bars, wherever you're traveling to. One thing I will say about Antalya is the Turkish people love their animals. And you know what, before I get into it, let's see a compilation. Say hello to YouTube. So looking at these animals, they were super healthy. I didn't really see a sickly animal. The people were feeding them in outside their shops and outside the bars, putting food for them, creating shelters in the streets. They all looked really healthy and had been tagged. And you know what, they were super friendly, because I think of this interaction with the people of Antalya. So a lot of people don't like animals, but I would say don't be put off by that. You know, you don't really get many, dogs barking at you. And
I remember thinking, I'm about to beat this bitch up.
Okay, I'm gonna go, because that's not the move. If they are, you can walk away, and they walk away. When it comes to excursions, Antalya has a lot to offer, from paragliding to quad biking to cable cars to going in and around the city and seeing its beautiful history. Let me share with you my experience. So for our first trip, we used the cable car, and it was amazing. In this location, you'll see a lot more tourists. Cable car takes you up to the peak of the mountains, and it was snowy. The sky was super blue from the sun. It was such a great view. Definitely would recommend. However, when you go to the top, there's two different floors. So on the top floor, it was less windy. There was a pole that tells you the distance from where you are currently to other locations across Turkey. At this top floor, it wasn't that windy. It was cold. I mean, there's snow around, but you know, bearable, and you can take some amazing pictures. They do also have people that will take pictures for you. So if you take one floor down, there is another view. This time around, it was super windy, to the point where the snow and the ice felt like glass across my face. It was cold and difficult for me to walk around. I didn't take any pictures, but I do have this clip of me deciding to go into the section, finding a Lara, picking it up, and wishing that I had good luck. In this location, there is also coffee shops, gift shop. You can purchase some souvenirs, but also get warm and dry and grab yourself a coffee after seeing the peaks of the mountain. After going up the cable car, we then traveled to a nearby restaurant, which was amazing. Really was such a natural view. There was a nice river going by where you're eating, really cinematic views and what you'd expect to see in movies, and we're placed in little huts, so you also have heaters to keep you warm. So if you are traveling in one of the months that is a little bit cold, you don't need to worry, because you're safe and sound. Amazing food, fresh fish. There's a variety of different options. So if you're vegetarian or vegan, there will be some choices there for you. However, if you do have any dietary requirements, I would recommend actually talking to the excursion and tour organizers before you actually travel. And on that note, this is really important. Let's hit a word of warning. Make sure you decide on your tour and excursion guides correctly, because I'm going to tell you a bit of a story that happened to me. Because locally you will find a lot of people offering excursions. I do get organizations like TUI that offer excursions on the app. You can also find them at the hotel, so they have a bit more of a guarantee. But you can also find merchants in the city center, and you can guess which one I went for this cable car trip. Now, we were traveling the city center, and we found a store rather than a stall, which you'll find lots of when you're down there. And the store looked legit. The person spoke actually very good English, offered us various different trips and great prices. And yes, this is where things get interesting. So as we were traveling back to our hotel, you know, we had a really great day. The sun was out, the skies were blue. You know, we just had a great time. We're in the car. I'm with 3 other people, so there's 4 of us in the car with the driver. We see traffic cops, and not just any traffic cops with like 5 guns each. I don't know why they had so many guns, but they did. And you know, we were just a bit shooketh, just gonna put it like that. And so was our driver, who also couldn't speak a lot of English. So we get stopped by these cops, and there's also a coach behind us who were also on an excursion. They pull out the driver from the coach, and he's scared shitless. He was so scared, trembling, and they took his ID, they checked his driver's license, and they sent the coach away. Don't know who drove that, but he was then taken into a police van and taken away. At the same time, obviously, we're kind of trying to figure out why have we been stopped, talking to our driver. He wasn't communicating very well or at all. Then he gets pulled out of the car. The policeman also then come up to us and asks simply, were like, take it all, snacks, you know. And then we were like wondering what's happened. We're out there for like 20 minutes. The driver comes back. I mean, he's talking to the traffic cop for a long time. He comes back into the car. We're asking what's happening. He doesn't really answer. The police officers get back into their Jeep and they start driving. We're now following them and we're taken all the way to the police station. Now the police station, I will say, actually outside there was some amazing views. It was kind of lit. We were there for 2 hours, maybe even more, and we were trying to figure out what's going on. Side note, maybe it's worth downloading a better app than Google Translate, because we were translating using the app, but it seemed to not maybe translate correctly, or it's just difficult to communicate with the people at the station. So back to the story. We were then outside for 2 hours. The driver's gone in and we don't even see him at all. We see people coming in and out of the station. The police officers are having a laugh. They kind of seem a bit friendly. Like at this point, they were kind of having some banter, like somebody burped and then we were like, he burps, don't shoot me. They were actually quite polite without being able to communicate in English. So in the end, they brought our passport back. They made us sign something which said, like, basically we had been stopped. You know, reading up online, Turkish government are doing an amazing job to try and crack down on these scammy lenders who don't have a license. Although I don't think this was the case for us, I do feel that perhaps the driver was a friend of the Excursion guy and was like, can you drop them off? Sad news is his car was taken, like it was just towed away. He then came into a coach with a new driver with us. We were taken back to the hotel and he was gone home. So the moral of that story is, and I guess a learning experience for me, was make sure you kind of pre-plan certain things and also just double check the licenses if you decide to go for a cheap option. But on to Pamukkale. Pamukkale was an amazing experience also. And you may have seen some pictures that look like salt lakes, but these were calcium travertines and covered in water which were from natural hot springs. You can also see a pool there and a lot of history. The views were fantastic. You can paraglide also from this location if you want to pay an extra cost or maybe part of your excursion price. We got to see all types of weather, from sunshine to lightning to rain. It was amazing because we really got to experience all 4 seasons traveling up to Pamukkale. Before we actually got to the location, we also stopped at an Onyx Factory, which was also a very educational experience. In this location, there was a lot of jewelry, rings, artifacts, vases, art pieces, just an amazing factory to see. And now it's time for a crystal cleanse. I will end this video in saying that the people of Antalya and Turkey in general are so open-minded and super friendly, and it's a great experience to travel to the country. I really enjoyed the fact that there's such diversity in the culture, in the food, in the people. You get a flavor of everything if you travel here. So if you've traveled to Antalya and had a great experience, or if you're thinking about traveling, please do hit up the comments, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm trying my best. I know this channel is a series of my vlogs and my music journey, but I am traveling a lot more this year, so I will try and get better at doing this and making it a little bit more interesting than I normally do. I think COVID was kind of one of those things where I'm like, you know what, it's a sign I need to go out, travel and see the world. So if you have any recommendations, please also hit that in the comments. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.